Hey, Soul Stories fam. We've got a swoon-worthy love story for you today. Let's jump in and tell us, what city are you watching from? Mornings at the Grayson estate begin with the smell of flour and the clink of spoons in the kitchen. Selena Brooks nudged the swinging door open with her hip, one arm hugging a stack of cloud-white towels, the other lifted as a microphone. Good morning, viewers. The morning news would like to report the Dust Army has officially surrendered in the West Hallway, she announced in a solemn anchor's voice, then winked and set the towels on the kitchen table. A quick interview with the head chef, Mrs. Winters. What are your thoughts? Mrs. Winters laughed, shaking her head. My thoughts are that if you don't take those towels to the dining room right now, I'll have to declare war on the army of delays. Roger that, Commander. Selena gave a mock salute, spun on her heel, and her sleek black ponytail swished like an exclamation point at the end of a joke. She was 26, slender, with eyes that seemed always lit by stage lights. Her optimism was like an upbeat jazz tune, rhythmic, improvised, and always ending with a smile. On her way to the dining room, she ran into Lisa, her fellow mate on shift, struggling with a tulip arrangement nearly half her height. "Hold this for me a sec," Lisa groaned. "This vase wants to divorce the table." "Let me mediate," Selena said, setting a hand on the rim, making a few adjustments, lowering the leaves and straightening the lace doily. Every marriage needs balance. The table needs flowers. The flowers need the table. That's love. Lisa exhaled in relief, smiling. "You always have an answer." "Not always, except when the question is, what's for dinner?" The universe is still silent on that one. Selena's quips were like bubbles in a glass of soda, small, quick, and making it easier for everyone to breathe. In a sprawling estate with a chilly schedule, she was the warm patch of color. But behind the jokes, in the deepest drawer of her heart, there was something so serious she rarely spoke it aloud. Music. She loved the piano. Loved it since her tiny fingers skimmed over the keys of her grandmother's old instrument. There was a time she thought the stage dream was like the morning alarm, repetitive, easy to snooze. Then life crowded in, her mother's illness, the bills, the job, and the piano was pushed into a corner while she moved into the Grayson estate with a housekeeping contract and a room above the garage. The dream was still there, just covered with a cloth. This morning the estate was busier than usual. Rumors ran fast as cats. Master Dominic is back. In finance circles, that name sounded like a brand. Cold, expensive, hard to approach. They said he left the family firm, built his own tech empire, then disappeared from home for years. In the kitchen, Mrs. Winters said, "He's kinder than he looks." Lisa countered, "Men in tailored suits all have secrets." Selena only shrugged. "Who doesn't?" "I do too. I hide candy in the third drawer from the top." After setting the table, Selena stole a glance at the main drawing room, the heart of the estate, high ceiling, crystal chandeliers, wine-red carpet. In the corner, the glossy black grand piano lay still, like a whale breathing slowly under the sea. On its lid, there was almost no dust. Selena's doing, of course. She smiled to herself. "Hello there. Did you miss me today?" Distant footsteps in the hallway stopped. Selena looked over her shoulder. No one. The drawing room was as empty as a theater before the doors opened. She stepped over, lifted the lid, and revealed the 2 rows of black and white keys. 5 minutes, she told herself, as always. 5 minutes to remember who I am. Her fingers touched the keys, first a pleasing major chord, then a jaunty melody, skipping like footsteps avoiding puddles after rain. No Chopin, no Beethoven, just a tune she was teasing out herself, stitched from cafe memories, the subway's rumble, and Lisa's laugh when she dropped a spoon. Her music smelled like Mrs. Winters's apple pie and the drawing room's polished wood. The longer she played, the more her back loosened, her foot tapping softly on the carpet like a tiny drummer. Each refrain, she added a playful accent, then let out a quiet laugh at herself. Then she heard a sound and stopped playing. "Keep going." A deep male voice sounded behind her. Selena whipped around. Framed in the doorway stood a tall man with broad shoulders, a simple white shirt and no tie. He didn't look like the magazine photos, cold, impassive, but a little tired, with circles under his eyes as if off a long flight. Yet his gaze was alert, like light reflected in crystal, deep, direct, and unflinching. "Sorry," Selena blurted, jumping up and hurriedly closing the lid. "I was just checking whether the piano works." She blinked. "The good news is, it's alive." The corner of the man's mouth twitched. "I figured." He stepped in, not close enough to make her retreat, but close enough for her to see his unusually gray eyes. "You, are you Dominic Grayson?" she guessed, then bit her lip. "I mean, if you're not, then I'm sorry for misnaming a rich man." "Yes," he said without pride or flourish. "And you're the one who defeated the dust army in the West Hallway?" Selena laughed, surprised he'd tuned into her joking frequency. "News travels fast. Yes, sir, I'm Selena. Title, frontline fighter against dust, and, occasionally, a part-time musician for myself." Dominic looked at the piano, then at her. "You play very well." "Thank you," she said, then added quickly, defensive by habit. "But I know where I am. I shouldn't be at the piano during work hours." "Seems like you're still on the job," he replied lightly. "You just checked a valuable family asset for me." "Do I get a bonus?" Selena asked, mock serious. "A cookie, perhaps?" "There are cookies in the kitchen." Dominic raised a brow as if genuinely intrigued. "Yes, if Mrs. Winters doesn't get to them first." Selena lowered her voice, sharing intel as if it were top secret. "But we'll need a distraction plan." This time he laughed out loud, a short, low sound. "I like how you say we." Selena suddenly realized she was standing in front of the boss of the boss. Her shoulders tightened. "Sorry, I talk too much." "Don't apologize for something that makes this room less silent," Dominic said, then gestured to the bench. "Could you keep playing?" "You want to listen?" she asked, half doubting. "I only caught the middle. I want to hear the beginning and the end of the story." He leaned lightly against the piano's side, keeping a polite distance, not touching the glossy lid. "If you're comfortable." Selena looked down at her 10 fingers. There was a moment's hesitation, not from fear, but from the unfamiliar feeling of this. Being asked to play, being listened to. She drew a breath. "Okay," she said, pulling out the bench and sitting. "But the rule is, if I mess up, you pretend you didn't hear it." "Deal!" She lifted the lid. This time the melody began slowly, as if recounting the beginning. A morning that smelled of fresh-baked pastry, a beat of sunlight on the stair rail, a girl running down a corridor with a stack of towels. Then the music shifted, quick and bright, with a few unexpected jazz turns, like the wink she'd given Lisa. Midway through, Selena tossed in a mischievous run of arpeggios, her hands nimble, gliding like water. At the end, the tune settled into calm, finishing on an open chord, not completely closed, as if making a promise. She lifted her hands and let the silence settle. Dominic didn't clap, didn't make noise. He only smiled slowly, a smile that softened the fatigue around his eyes. "That wasn't a famous piece," he said. "My own," Selena answered, a little shy but still joking. "I call it the morning report." "The most pleasant report I've ever received," he said. "Where did you learn?" "At home," Selena laced her fingers, rubbing her thumbs together. "My grandmother taught me. I did study for a few years, then life got in the way." "Life has a habit of doing that," Dominic nodded, as someone with his own experience of being shoved off planned tracks. "Do you play for an audience?" "Yes. The audience includes the fern by the window, the grandfather clock, and sometimes the vacuum cleaner." She shrugged. "They don't complain." "Then add one more today," he said, fingers lightly interlaced. "May this new audience request an encore?" Selena laughed, not hiding the joy that rose up, both unexpected and fragile. The feeling of being seen, not as a pair of cleaning hands, but as someone with a story to tell, warmed her chest. She tapped a light rhythm with the tip of her shoe. Encore granted, but swapped the ticket for a cookie. "Deal number 2. She played again, this time a cheeky variation on the old theme. Dominic stood still. No talking, no checking his phone, no glancing at his watch. Morning light slid across the piano's surface and washed his cheekbones, revealing something at odds with the rumors. Not cold, not haughty, just quiet and listening. When the last note faded, high heels clicked in the hallway. Ella Lena Grayson, the lady of the house, appeared in a sharp cream suit, her gaze sweeping the scene like an X-ray. "Dominic," she nodded. "You're back." "I'm back, Mother," he replied, straightening. Her eyes shifted to Selena, pausing a beat on the open lid. "Selena, I don't believe your morning schedule includes performances." Selena stood at once, closed the lid, and smiled politely. "Yes, ma'am. I had just completed a routine acoustic check. Result, passed." Dominic cleared his throat as if stifling a laugh. Mrs. Grayson did not. "The dining room needs to be set to receive guests for lunch." "Yes, ma'am," Selena said, gathering her stack of towels, bowing her head, and turning to go. "Selena," Dominic called. She stopped and looked back. "The encore was very good," he said in an even tone, not overdoing it, as he might say to anyone. But Selena heard the subtext, acknowledgement, not charity. She blinked, then quipped, playful again, "Thank you. Audience, please settle the cookie ticket in the kitchen." Dominic's mouth curved another degree. Mrs. Grayson frowned, puzzled. Selena left the room, heart beating a little fast, but with the rhythm of someone who'd just run across dew-wet grass, cool at first, then warming through. In the hallway, Lisa popped out and whispered, "Well, what's the young master like?" "Like someone who just heard the weather forecast, and for the first time believes in sunshine," Selena murmured, then smiled. "And I think the piano was happy today." She went back to work. White towels, crystal glasses, tulips. But everything seemed to have a soundtrack. In the drawing room, Dominic lingered a moment, looking at the piano thoughtfully. In a world full of polished voices, he had just heard an unvarnished sound. True. And for the first time in years of sprinting among numbers, he found himself pausing to listen. After that first unexpected encounter with the piano, Dominic found himself noticing Selena more often than he expected. At first, he dismissed it as curiosity. She wasn't like the rest of the staff, who moved quietly, almost invisibly, through the Grayson estate. Selena filled the air with a kind of lightness. A joke here, a playful salute there, a witty observation that made even the stiffest silence bend into a smile. The days that followed provided them with more opportunities to cross paths. Once he passed through the dining room as she was setting crystal glasses. She balanced the tray on one hand and, with mock seriousness, whispered to the cutlery, "Behave yourselves, gentlemen." "Today we serve royalty." Dominic lingered longer than he should have, waiting to see the way she winked at Lisa and made the kitchen boy laugh until his face turned red. He realized, with a start, that he was smiling too. Another morning he caught her in the garden, sleeves rolled up, as she attempted to replant a tulip that had toppled. She knelt in the dirt without hesitation, humming a jazz rhythm as though the flowers were part of her orchestra. "You know," she said when she noticed him, "tulips are divas. They need applause to stand tall." He raised an eyebrow but clapped once, and she laughed, a laugh so genuine it slipped past his guard. In the evenings, he sometimes returned late from meetings, expecting only silence. But in the corridor, he would hear her voice, soft but steady, reading aloud to one of the younger maids who struggled with English. No performance, no audience, just her warmth spilling into words. He leaned against the shadowed wall, unseen, letting the sound anchor him in a way business victories never had. Each encounter unsettled him. He was accustomed to boardrooms where smiles were masks and parties where compliments were calculated. Selena, in contrast, had no filter for her joy or her honesty. She teased him once, lightly, when he appeared distracted. "Careful, sir. If you stare at the ledger too hard, the numbers might bite back." He surprised himself by chuckling, the sound unfamiliar in his own throat. Dominic began to look forward to these small moments. The tilt of her head when she thought of a pun, the way she pressed her lips together when trying not to laugh at her own jokes, and the sudden seriousness in her eyes whenever music was mentioned. There was no grandeur in these meetings, no orchestration, just chance encounters that felt strangely essential. What shook him most wasn't her humor, though he found himself replaying her words at night. It was her sincerity. Beneath the playfulness, he sensed a quiet strength, the kind born from carrying burdens without complaint. And each time he saw her, he wondered how someone who worked in shadows could make the entire house feel brighter. Dominic Grayson, who had built walls as high as the empire he commanded, was beginning to feel them tremble, not from pressure, but from the laughter of a maid who treated life like music. And for the first time in years, he wasn't sure he wanted to rebuild them. That morning, Dominic's phone buzzed, cutting through his thoughts. The caller ID flashed. Victoria, his ex-girlfriend. He froze for half a second before answering, keeping his voice polite. I'm listening. Dom? It's a drag. I'm flying to Paris tomorrow. The shoot schedule got pushed at the last minute. I have to cancel the gala this week. Her tone was light, as if announcing a table change at a cafe. Saturday night is my family foundation's event, Dominic said, more tired than annoyed. You already RSVP'd. I know, but this opportunity is huge. A pause. You'll be fine, right? The call ended. Dominic set the phone down and leaned back in his chair. It wasn't the first time he'd been pushed to the bottom of her list. Maybe just the first time he felt oddly relieved about it. The strange emptiness left behind cracked open a space of freedom. He turned his head and caught Selena adjusting the grandfather clock. She leaned close to the ticking second hand and whispered, Let's stay on beat, old friend. A smile slipped out. The thought struck fast and clear. Why not? Selena, Dominic called as she placed a tulip arrangement on the reception table. She turned, her instinct for banter kicking in. Has the dust army reemerged, sir? No, he replied, stepping closer. I need advice on attire. Your attire? Selena tilted her head, feigning solemnity. Classic black tux, bow tie, not too flashy, and definitely no duck pattern socks. Most investors don't appreciate ducks. Don't worry, I don't own duck socks, Dominic chuckled. But I am short on company. Selena winked. I could introduce you to Lisa. She's excellent at balancing bosses. I want to invite you. His words landed firm, as if he feared they might slip away if he delayed. The air shifted for a beat. Selena looked at him, not as Master Grayson under chandeliers and foundation banners, but as a man daring to say something true. Are you serious? She asked, blinking quickly. Or is this some secret test of the rich and bored club? No test. No joke, Dominic held her gaze. My ex canceled. I could call anyone else. But I don't want another mask. That room will be full of them already. He angled his head slightly, searching for words. I want someone real. Selena fell quiet, then let out a thin laugh. Have you considered the fallout? The whole room will say, the Grayson heir brought his maid to the gala. Someone might even hand me a tray and ask for a martini. And I'll say, she's my guest. Dominic answered without hesitation. If you agree, I'll make sure you don't work that night. No one has the right to treat you like staff. She crossed her arms, leaning lightly against the table, her eyes flashing with familiar mischief. Yet behind them, Dominic saw offensive pride. Then let me be clear, Selena said slowly. I don't want to be a prop for rebellion against your family. I'm not a signboard that says, look, I'm different. If you're inviting me just to rile up your mother, I'm out. Dominic nodded, not dodging. I understand. I am tired of their expectations, yes. But the main reason is, he paused, then gave a self-deprecating smile. You give this house rhythm. And I think it's the first time I've heard it. Selena exhaled softly, her face gentling. Then she raised a finger. Condition 1. I go as myself. No fake accents, no pretending I know Grayson family history back to 1812, no drunken speeches about truffles. Accepted. Condition 2. Wardrobe. I don't take expensive gifts. If necessary, we rent or borrow. And I get to pick shoes I can run in case of fire. Dominic laughed. A fire at a gala? Rich galas usually burn from the glares, she winked. Condition 3, no conveniently accidental reporters. No leaks to the press. I'm not a story for someone else to spin. Agreed, he said, his voice lower. Condition 4? Condition 4, Selena hesitated, then spoke clearly. If things get awkward afterward, I still keep my job. I won't depend on anyone's feelings. Dominic straightened as if receiving a matter of honor. I'll speak to my mother. To the house manager. You won't lose your position because you went to a gala with me. She studied him a moment longer, past the etiquette, past the white shirt, as if weighing each word. And condition 5, if anyone insults the staff that night, I reserve the right to respond, with polite but sharp language. I won't promise gently. Honestly, that's the part I'd look forward to most, Dominic said, lips curving faintly. Selena snorted, hiding a smile. Any conditions for me? Yes, he said. Stay within 2 meters of me when people start prying. And don't call me sir all night. Dominic will do. All right, Dominic, she tested, soft yet steady. Then suddenly serious. But understand this. It's one night. One night I'll step into a room everyone thinks I don't belong in. I won't bow my head, but I won't change my name either. And your purpose? Dominic clasped his hands behind his back, looking straight at her. My purpose is to be with someone who makes me drop the act, at least for one evening. Selena listened, her smile blooming at the corners of her eyes like stage lights flicking on. She held out her hand. We have a deal. But, she tilted her head. If I panic, you'll take me to the balcony for air, and you can't wear killer shoes. I hate killer shoes, Dominic said, shaking her hand, warm and firm. And I know a place where we can borrow a beautiful dress without killing anyone's wallet. The fairy godmother's workshop? Selena asked, eyes gleaming with curiosity. Close. My friend's vintage shop. The owner doesn't bite. Fine. But I pick the color. I play piano better in blue. She said it innocently, then clapped a hand over her mouth. I mean, if there happens to be a piano. Noted, Dominic smiled. I won't plant a piano in the middle of the room to turn you into an act. Thank you, Selena nodded, stepping back. I should return to tulips and tablecloths. Selena, he called, making her pause on the stairs. Yes? Thank you for setting conditions, Dominic said softly. It makes my invitation less selfish. For some reason, those words warmed her chest like a sip of cocoa. She shrugged, her tone playful again. I'm very skilled at setting conditions to earn cookies. Speaking of which, yesterday's encore ticket is still unpaid. Tonight I'll raid the kitchen, Dominic said solemnly. Rescue the cookies. Then, see you at Operation No Killer Shoes and Free Cookies. Selena waved, ponytail flicking. You're going to the gala? Lisa nearly toppled a vase when she heard the news. With him? Lower your voice. Selena pressed a finger to her lips, though her smile trembled. And it's one night. I'm going under full terms. Verbal contract sealed. Oh my God, Lisa covered her face, then glanced around. If the lady of the house finds out, storm incoming. Then we bring raincoats, Selena winked. Suddenly she sobered. Liz, I don't want to become a gossip. If it's embarrassing that night, I'm still me. If it's beautiful, it has to be because I stayed myself. Lisa softened, eyes warm. You're brave. Not brave, Selena mused, then smiled. Just in rhythm. She returned to the drawing room, brushing past the glossy piano. Her hand grazed its lid like an old friend. In her mind, a new tune began to bud. Bright, mischievous, with a little bridge that led to a balcony for air. She whispered to the piano, if we go together, and we don't change our name. At the end of the hall, Dominic lingered longer than he needed, watching her uniformed figure vanish through the doorway. He could hear his heartbeat shift, not faster, not slower, but steady again, like sinking to a new metronome. One night, one invitation, one shared condition, truth. And with each condition set down like black and white keys, he knew the music of Saturday night had already begun. The grand hall of the Grayson estate glittered with crystal lights, hundreds of guests in lavish evening wear flowing in. The annual Grayson Foundation Gala was always the hottest topic in high society, a place to flaunt power, wealth, and connections. But this year, one surprise left everyone gaping. The double doors swung open, and Dominic Grayson entered in a sleek black tuxedo. At his side was Selena Brooks. No longer in her maid's uniform, Selena wore a deep sea blue gown with a perfect, refined cut. Elegant without being showy, highlighting her confident poise. Her hair was swept into a neat bun, with a few strands falling softly, like lazy rays of sunlight. Her bright eyes glittered like jewels under the chandeliers. The room fell silent for a beat, then buzzed with murmurs. "Isn't that the maid? Has he lost his mind? Bringing a servant to the gala?" Selena caught every whisper, her heart racing, but she remembered the condition she had set with Dominic. Go as herself. She smiled, meeting the stairs head-on. Dominic's old friends approached, glasses of champagne swaying. One sneered, "Dom, at least you have a date this time. But did you hire her by the hour?" The air dripped with mockery. Selena blinked once, then replied evenly, "If that were true, I'd charge double for putting up with jokes this dull." A few laughs broke out around them, unexpectedly siding with her. The man faltered, his face flushing. Selena continued, her voice light but razor-edged. "The truth is, I'm not an investor, not a model, not a socialite. I'm just someone who knows how to dust, crack a joke, and sometimes play a few notes on the piano. But maybe that's why Dominic invited me, because I don't need to pretend." Her candid yet graceful words surprised many. Scattered applause rose, and instead of ridicule, the looks shifted toward respect. The music paused as the host invited guests to take the stage for entertainment. Silence. No one dared risk it. Selena felt Dominic's gaze drift toward the piano by the stage. "You're insane," she whispered. "Only if you say no." Dominic smiled. Selena drew a deep breath and stepped forward. Her heels tapped against the polished floor, each step slicing through the murmurs. She sat at the piano, fingers poised above the keys. In that instant, every eye fixed on her. She began with a gentle melody, then gradually let playful, improvisational notes spill out, just like her. The music swept through the hall, silencing every whisper. The crowd was drawn into her current of sound, lively, pure, no less than a professional's. When the final note rang, no one moved, as if afraid to break the moment. Then thunderous applause erupted, rolling on and on. Selena rose, offering a graceful bow, her smile shining like stage lights. In that moment, she was no longer the invisible maid of the estate, but a true artist, the heart of the gala. Dominic stepped forward, offering his hand, his pride unhidden. He leaned close, whispering just for her, "You just changed this entire room." Selena's small laugh answered, "No, I only played my own song." And for the first time, in a space where everything was a mask, authenticity gleamed brighter than any diamond. The applause from the hall still echoed as Selena and Dominic slipped into the back corridor. But before they could even exhale, they came face to face with the cold gaze of Elena Grayson. "Do you have any idea what you just did, Dominic?" Her voice cut like a blade. "You've turned this family into a laughingstock." Selena's hand tightened on her gown, instinct urging her to step back. But Dominic clasped her hand firmly, refusing to let go. "No, Mother." Selena just made the entire room silent and listen. Something none of the so-called stars you've ever chosen for me could do. Elena's glare shifted to Selena. "You're lucky enough to even be under this roof. Don't fool yourself into thinking my son actually needs you. How much? How much for you to leave quietly?" Selena froze. The words cut deep, but instead of retreating, she lifted her chin, eyes steady. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I don't sell my self-respect." Dominic turned squarely to face his mother. "You just insulted the woman I respect most." Elena's eyes widened. "What are you saying?" "I like her," Dominic said firmly without hesitation. "And if anyone in this family thinks they can use money or power to make her disappear, think again. I won't allow it." Selena's eyes widened, her heart racing. The corridor fell so quiet she could hear her own breath. Dominic had openly admitted it in front of his mother. But before anyone could respond, a heavy sound came from the side hall. Richard Grayson, Dominic's father, staggered, clutching his chest, his face drained of color, sweat breaking out across his brow. "Richard!" Elena screamed. Glass shattered as someone dropped a drink. Guests rushed in. Selena darted forward, instinct taking over. "Call an ambulance now!" "Loosen his tie." She knelt, helping to keep his airway open. Yet amid the chaos, whispers flared like sparks. It must be the shock. His son bringing the maid to the gala drove him over the edge. Exactly. He's been holding it in all evening. Every accusing eye turned towards Selena like arrows. When the ambulance arrived, Richard was taken away, leaving the hall heavy with dread. Elena turned back, her voice trembling but sharp. "Do you see? You caused this collapse. If anything happens to him, I will never forgive you." Selena swallowed hard, her throat dry. She wanted to speak, to defend herself, but the weight of hundreds of suspicious stares pinned her in place. Dominic stepped forward, shielding her completely. "Enough, Mother. Father has had heart problems for years. His doctors warned us. This is not Selena's fault, and if anyone dares blame her, they'll have to get through me first." His voice rang out, unwavering. Still, Selena felt her chest tighten, fear swelling within her. Just moments ago, she had been the shining center of the room, and now she was the one standing under the crushing weight of blame. The gala night dissolved into the sound of ambulance sirens and whispers sharp as thorns. As the guests trickled away, Selena quietly returned to her small room above the garage. Everything was the same as every evening. The warm yellow glow of her desk lamp, the old suitcase beneath the bed, her grandmother's photo on the shelf. But tonight the silence pressed heavier, like an extra wall. She opened the closet and pulled out the suitcase. The neatly folded uniforms suddenly felt harder to touch. Selena packed quickly, as if moving fast enough could keep her heart from catching up and changing her mind. On the table she left a note for Mrs. Winters. A few lines of gratitude and a reminder to guard the apple pie recipe well. Don't let Dominic discover the secret stash. A soft knock. Lisa peeked in, eyes still red from crying. "You're really leaving?" Selena smiled, light and easy, as though not wanting anyone to be afraid. "I'm going on a trip. Destination, the world outside the estate. Baggage, 3 outfits, and my self-respect." "You did nothing wrong," Lisa said, hugging her tightly. "The master had heart problems long before. Everyone knows it." "I know," Selena replied, gently patting her back. "But this house needs peace." "And me?" she swallowed. "I'm the noise they don't want." Lisa squeezed her hand once more, then stepped back. "I'll miss you. And I'll polish the piano for you." Selena laughed. "Don't. Let him learn to do it himself." She dragged the suitcase down the narrow stairs. The corridor felt longer tonight. Passing the drawing room, she paused. The grand piano lay silent, glossy black, reflecting the ceiling light like a still lake. She laid a hand on the lid, pressed her cheek to its cool surface for a second, and whispered, "Goodbye, old friend. Don't be mad if I don't say farewell in the grand hall." She turned, and there was Dominic standing in the doorway. The hall light cut across his cheekbones, the exhaustion beneath his eyes unmistakable. "I thought you were upstairs," he exhaled. "I just came from the hospital. My father's stable for now." "I'm glad," Selena said sincerely, her hand still on the suitcase handle. "Truly." His gaze fell to the suitcase, then back to her face. "What are you doing, Selena?" "I think I'm answering the world's invitation." She tried to keep it light, though her throat felt raw. "I'm leaving." "No." Dominic stepped forward. "Don't turn what just happened into a reason to vanish." "My mother. I'll talk to her. I'll handle it." "Dominic," Selena shook her head, her voice soft but steady. "You can handle many things, but not the feelings of an entire house. I walked into the gala like a wrong note. Even if it sounded fine, it still disrupted the orchestra." "Then let me change the orchestra," he shot back without thinking. "I already said it to Mother. I'll say it to the whole city if I must. You're not a mistake to fix." "I know, but if I stay now, every look will fall on me. Whenever your father falters, whenever your mother frowns. I won't be a convenient scapegoat. I'm leaving not out of shame, but out of respect for your family and for myself." He was silent. For the first time, Dominic had no words to shift her steps. He only looked at her, as if memorizing each loose strand of hair across her forehead, each trace of light in her eyes. "I could drive you," he finally said. "At least, don't go alone." "Thank you. But I'll be fine," Selena smiled. "Give me my suitcase and you're used to trains and taxis. Besides, if I leave with you, the papers will have a headline ready by morning." Dominic flinched. "I don't care what they write." "I do," she replied softly, "because the name they drag along isn't only mine." They stood before the piano, like two travelers at a crowded station. Dominic wanted to reach for her, wanted to say the reckless words, "Stay." But in her eyes, he saw a resolve that wasn't impulsive. It was a decision shaped the moment blame fell like stones in the hallway. She spoke first, covering the tremor with a joke. "Remember to dust the piano for me, or it'll get angry being forgotten." Dominic laughed, but the sound snapped halfway, like an over-tightened string. "I promise. I'll dust it, and I'll practice one chord so when you come back, I won't hurt your ears." "Careful," Selena tilted her head. "Music is addictive." "I think I already am," he murmured, eyes fixed on her. "Addicted to the way you give this house rhythm. Addicted to how you make everything feel lighter." She bit her lip, glancing at the piano so she wouldn't have to face his gaze. "Music will return. When this house is ready to listen. When I'm ready to stand here without anyone ashamed." "How long?" Dominic asked, the question spilling like a plea. "I don't know," Selena admitted. "Maybe weeks. Maybe longer. But I promise you this. I won't disappear from myself. Wherever I am, I'll play. And if one day we still want to hear each other, we'll know." Dominic nodded like a man finishing a chess game whose end he'd seen coming, but played to the last move anyway. He bent, lifted the suitcase from her hand. "Give me at least one privilege," he said, voice steadier. "Let me carry this to the gate. Don't argue." "Yes, sir, audience," Selena teased, then corrected with a small grin. "Yes, Dominic." They walked the familiar hall, portraits of Grayson ancestors staring down at them, unblinking. At the threshold, Selena paused, glancing back one last time. "Goodbye, Lisa," she whispered, though her friend wasn't there. "Goodbye, kitchen. Goodbye, Fern. Goodbye. Morning report." Outside, the night wind rustled through the pines. Dominic set the suitcase by the gate and turned to her. "Can I call you?" "Yes," she said, serious now. "But don't ask, 'Are you okay?' I'll lie." "Then what should I ask? What are you listening to?" Selena smiled. "And I'll send you a clip, in music." He nodded. "I'll wait." "Don't wait." "Live," she said, her eyes bright, as if imprinting the words on him. "Take care of your father. Tell your mother I don't resent her. And don't forget the piano." Dominic laughed again, fuller this time, though still edged. He opened the gate. Selena rolled her suitcase over the gravel, its wheels crackling like tiny maracas. At the road's edge, she turned, raising two fingers in a V. Victory for a peaceful heart. She disappeared into the night, her figure shrinking under the golden streetlights. Dominic stood still, listening to the wheels fade into the wind. Then he turned back inside, straight to the drawing room. He lifted the piano lid and took a soft cloth. Each stroke felt like keeping a promise. And somewhere in the silence he heard a tune, bright, mischievous, but now with one unspoken low note. He set his hand on the keys. The chord wasn't perfect, but he would practice, until the day someone knocked and said, "Encore." A week after leaving the Grayson estate, Selena had settled into a new rhythm. A tiny rented room in an old neighborhood, simple meals, and each evening, a seat at the piano in a live music bar. The Moonlight Bar wasn't fancy, but it was warm. Golden lights spilled over wooden tables, and cigarette smoke mingled with bursts of laughter. Selena sat at the worn upright piano, her fingers dancing across the keys, sometimes spinning playful jazz riffs, sometimes drifting through tender ballads. Regulars began coming just to hear her play. Some ordered another drink, others fell silent, listening. The manager smiled, murmuring, "You're the new soul of Moonlight, Selena." She only laughed, half believing, half shy. But deep down, her heart was waking again. For the first time in years, music wasn't a stolen secret in an empty drawing room. It was her true breath. On Friday night, after she finished Fly Me to the Moon, a middle-aged man approached. He wore a long coat with silver streaks in his hair, and his eyes were sharp behind thin-frame glasses. "Excuse me, young lady," he said, voice English, tinged with French. "The way you turned that bridge into a jazz riff, that wasn't ordinary. Who taught you?" Selena hesitated. "No one. I just listened and tried for fun." The man smiled, offering his hand. "I'm Victor Langdon. Perhaps the name isn't familiar, but I once taught at the New York Academy of Music. Let me be direct. You have talent. You should consider auditioning." Selena's eyes widened. "Me? At a real music academy? I don't have credentials. I have nothing but 5 years of dusting someone else's piano." Victor shook his head. "What you have is real emotion. And that, if trained, will take you farther than you imagine." He set his card on the piano. "The Academy is opening admissions. If you want, come. I'll put in a word." Selena picked up the card, her hands trembling. All her life she had dreamed, but never believed the dream would come knocking. That night, as she cleaned up, a familiar figure appeared at the bar's door. Dominic, in a simple shirt, no glow of high society galas. Just a man, eyes tired, but lighting up when he saw her. "You," Selena faltered, setting down her rag. "How did you know I was here?" "Lisa texted me," Dominic admitted. "I had to come. I heard your last piece from outside. Selena, you're brighter than any gala." She gave a small laugh, masking emotion. "Brighter in cigarette smoke and spilled whiskey?" "In the truth of who you are," Dominic said firmly. He sat beside the piano, voice low. "I know you're thinking of auditioning." Selena blinked. "You eavesdropped. I heard you with Victor Langdon. He's a legend, and he doesn't praise lightly." Dominic brushed a key with his fingertip, careful not to break the air. "You have to try, Selena. Don't go back to being a maid just because it's safe. Your dream is worth more than that." Selena bit her lip. "And if I fail? Then at least you stood on the right stage," Dominic replied instantly. "I'll be in the front row, clapping the loudest. I'd rather see you stumble while trying than watch you smile in a uniform, hiding your music like a secret." Her heart trembled. Amid clinking glasses and scraping chairs, only his words echoed in her mind. "Your dream is worth more than safety." When Dominic rose to leave, she called after him. "Dominic!" He turned. Selena held up the card. "If I audition, and if I get in, will you still polish the piano?" He laughed, stepped closer, and whispered near her ear. "I'll polish every key until you return to make them sing brighter." Selena watched his silhouette fade into the night, her hand clutching the card. In her chest, a fire had been lit, the fire of a dream. She sat back at the piano. This time she played something new, a melody rising not for the bar's patrons, but for her own future. Loving this story? This story belongs to Soul Stories. If you see it anywhere else, please come back to our official channel to enjoy it in full. On the day of her audition for the New York Academy of Music, Selena stepped into the grand hall, hands trembling. Before her was the gleaming black grand piano. Behind her, the stern faces of the judges. She drew a deep breath, recalling the nights playing at the bar, recalling Dominic's words. "A dream is worth more than safety." Her fingers touched the keys. The notes surged, then softened, mischievous yet filled with longing. When the final chord faded, the hall went utterly silent. Then the judges broke into applause. One professor nodded. "You don't just have technique, you have a story in your music." That is rare. A week later, Selena received her acceptance letter. She clutched it to her chest, sobbing with joy. A childhood dream once thought long broken had come alive again. Life as a conservatory student was far from easy. Classes were intense, practice endless, leaving her hands aching late into the night. Once when a professor reminded her, "Control your emotion. Don't let it overwhelm the technique," Selena bit her lip until it bled. Still, with her playful nature, She always found ways to make her classmates laugh. At least the keys don't complain when I miss a beat. They just sound a little shrill. Outside class, Selena performed at cafes, lounges, and small student concerts. Her name began appearing on flyers. Some young critics called her a fresh wind full of vitality. Dominic was always there. He sat quietly in the back row, and after each performance said only one thing: "You were wonderful." He once offered to cover her tuition and to hire private tutors. But Selena shook her head. "Dominic, I need to prove I deserve this on my own. If I succeed only because of your money, then it wouldn't be me anymore." Looking into her determined eyes, Dominic could only smile. "I understand, but at least give me the privilege of polishing the piano when you're tired." Selena laughed, waving him off. "Just polish your own piano. Mine's my job." What Selena didn't know was that her mother, Mrs. Brooks, had just been admitted to the hospital for treatment of a chronic illness. The medical bills were steep, yet they were always paid on time, courtesy of an anonymous patient support fund. One evening, as she and Dominic walked after a performance, she said, "I don't understand why the hospital has that fund. Thanks to it, I can keep studying without dropping out. I'm so lucky." Dominic only smiled, hiding the truth. He had arranged everything through donations made under subsidiary companies. He didn't need Selena to know. What mattered was giving her the freedom to devote herself wholly to music, the dream she deserved. Time passed and Selena grew on stage. Each piece she played carried not just technique, but fragments of her heart. She was proud to stand firm on her own feet, even when exhaustion nearly toppled her. At one concert, she looked out and saw Dominic clapping, his eyes never leaving her. Selena realized the road to becoming an artist was never truly walked alone. And even if Dominic wasn't beside her at every step, he was always there, like a steady, underscoring melody, lifting her music higher. Selena's fame grew through small concerts, her performance clips spreading widely online. But as the spotlight found her, the media began to dig. Selena Brooks, former maid of the Grayson family. Old photos in uniform resurfaced, along with rumors of her climbing up through romance. To the public, she wasn't only a talented young musician anymore. She was also the maid the Grayson heir lifted up. At the estate, Elena slammed the newspaper down, her voice sharp as a knife. "This is exactly what I feared. Every one of her concerts drags the Grayson name into a circus." James sneered. "The entire company is becoming a joke. Who respects Dominic when his ex was a model, but his current girlfriend is a maid?" All eyes turned to Richard, but he sat silently in his chair, tapping the armrest, eyes half closed. No defense, no protection. His silence was an admission. Selena's past was tarnishing the Grayson name. Dominic clenched his jaw. "If you think silence is the solution, you're wrong. She has done nothing wrong. It's this family that keeps turning everything into a mistake." But his words fell into emptiness, his father unmoving, his mother and brother brimming with disdain. During a live interview, the host asked sharply, "Selena, some say you're not a self-made artist, but just a former maid lucky to catch Dominic Grayson's eye. What do you think?" Selena paused, then laughed, her eyes twinkling. "It's true, I once scrubbed staircases, polished windows, and there was a piano in that house. I dusted it every day until one day I couldn't resist sitting down to play. That was when I remembered the dream I'd left behind. So if anyone wants to call that a stain, I'll proudly keep it. Because without those days of dusting, I wouldn't be here today, playing for you." The studio erupted in laughter and applause. The word maid, once intended as a weapon, had been transformed into inspiration. The press began calling her a modern Cinderella. But in the Grayson estate, tension only deepened. Elena sighed. She knows how to speak well, but she's still a shadow clinging to the Grayson name. Richard stayed silent. His quietness cut Dominic deeper than any accusation. It meant Selena would never be accepted. Alone in his study, Dominic stared at the news scrolling across the screen. While Selena bravely faced the world, his own family treated her like a thorn to be removed. And he knew, if he wanted to protect her, he would have to stand against the entire Grayson family. One autumn afternoon, Selena was teaching children basic scales in a small conservatory classroom when the program director entered, envelope in hand, stamped with the Carnegie Hall logo. Selena Brooks, you've been chosen to perform at the Academy's annual concert. The room burst into cheers from the children. Selena stood frozen, clutching the envelope, her eyes glistening with tears. Carnegie Hall, the stage she once only dared to glimpse on television, was now calling her name. The night of the concert arrived. Selena wore a sapphire blue gown, simple and elegant. Before stepping on stage, she suddenly spotted Dominic waiting backstage. He grinned playfully, offering her a small handkerchief. "Wipe your hands, artist." "Don't let sweat slip the keys." Selena laughed, trying to steady her racing heart. "You're making me more nervous." "No," Dominic whispered, eyes warm. "Once you sit down, you'll forget everyone. It'll just be you, the piano, and one very smitten guy in the second row. If you start cheering, I'll throw you out." "I'll just clap," he winked, louder than anyone. Selena touched his arm, whispering, "Thank you for always believing in me, even before I dared to believe in myself." The stage lights blazed. As Selena walked out, applause filled the hall. In the front row sat the Grayson family, faces stern. She sat at the piano, fingers poised. She began her own composition, The First Moonlight. The opening was light and playful, recalling the day she first dared to play secretly at the estate. Then it swelled, pouring into deep tones, echoing the moment Dominic first overheard her. Every note was a story, from the maid who dusted pianos to the artist now bathed in light. Dominic sat motionless, eyes fixed on her. He remembered that night clearly, her shy laugh when caught, her eyes sparkling like tiny stars. Now that light filled the hall. When the final note lingered, silence held the room. Then suddenly people rose to their feet. Applause thundered like waves. Selena lifted her head, overwhelmed. In the front row, Dominic stood first, pride blazing in his eyes. And for the first time, Elena Grayson, who once saw her as a stain, dabbed tears from her eyes. Richard remained seated, but his gaze had softened, as though laying down part of a burden. Selena bowed. Her heart soared. Every year of silence, every moment of scorn, now answered by applause. Backstage buzzed with congratulations. Dominic walked in, ignoring everyone else, eyes only on her. He swept her into his arms, spun her lightly, uncaring of the stares. "You just shook my whole heart," he whispered. Selena laughed through tears. "And I only meant to remind you to dust the piano." Dominic laughed out loud, then kissed her forehead. "I'll dust it for life, if every time you sit down, you play me something new." Selena leaned into his shoulder, her heart brimming with happiness. For the first time, she felt not only recognized as an artist, but also cherished as a woman, completely. After the concert, Selena didn't return straight to her conservatory dorm, but followed Dominic back to the Grayson estate. Richard had invited her. The house that once suffocated her with pressure now opened its doors wide, golden lights glowing as if welcoming something new. In the drawing room, Richard sat in his armchair, his face older after illness, but his eyes brighter, less severe. When Selena entered, he slowly rose to his feet. "Selena Brooks," his voice was rough, low. "Tonight you made the entire hall rise to its feet, and you made me rise. Inside." Selena's breath caught. She bowed her head. "Thank you, sir. But that was only music, not—" He cut her off, stepping closer with his hand extended. "You deserve it, not because of Dominic, not because of the Grayson name, but because of you. And if I once thought you harmed this family's reputation, now I see the opposite. You've made it shine brighter." Her hand trembled as she took his, eyes burning with tears. Behind him, Elena stood gripping her wineglass. For years she had lived by prejudice, valuing lineage above all. But seeing Richard, the proud man she had known, reach out to Selena, she could no longer cling to stubbornness. She sighed, stepping forward. "Selena, I'm not good at apologies, but perhaps I've been too harsh. Dominic has always been stubborn, but if anything has changed him, brought this family together, it's you." Selena smiled gently, easing the tension with humor. "If I can make the famously strict Mrs. Grayson smile, Then maybe my piano can go one day without being dusted. Elena chuckled lightly for the first time without distance. Fine one day. But after that, the piano still needs to be spotless. Laughter filled the room, the heaviness dissolving. That night, Dominic led Selena into the garden where they had shared many conversations. The cool night breeze carried silver moonlight across the lake. He took her hand, his eyes glowing. Selena, you went from the girl who dusted the piano to the artist the world now applauds. But to me, you are still the first girl who dared joke in front of me when everyone else only bowed. I love that truth. From his pocket, he drew a blue velvet box and opened it to reveal a graceful diamond ring. Last time I promised to polish the piano for you all my life. Tonight I want to promise more. To walk with you through every stage, every trial, not only as your lover, but as your husband, your partner. Selena laughed through her tears. Are you sure? I practice piano past midnight, and I can be stubborn. Dominic tilted his head, answering softly, I'm ready to be your audience for life, even if you hit the wrong notes. Selena nodded, tears streaming, placing her hand in his. The ring sparkled under the moonlight, like the first note of a new symphony in their lives. 12 months slipped by like quick eighth notes. From New York to Paris, from Kyoto to Barcelona, Selena Brooks' name graced concert posters everywhere. She performed with the strings at Sao Paulo, gave a solo at Tokyo Opera City, and held an intimate recital in a small theater on the Mediterranean coast. The press called her the storyteller of the piano. Every program like a new chapter of life unfolding. Even amid the whirlwind of tours, Selena kept her little rituals, wiping down the piano herself before playing, keeping a green handkerchief by her side as a lucky charm, and sending Dominic 2 words before every concert. Report in. He always replied with 3, clap loudest. Tonight was a milestone. Carnegie Hall's Great Hall, sold out. Not a conservatory event, but her own solo tour, First Light. In the center rows sat Dominic, quiet, beside him Richard, deep in thought, Elena unusually composed, and James whispering nervously with Lisa. Farther back, Mrs. Winters clutched tissues, prepared. Backstage, Selena adjusted her hairpin. Dominic appeared, handing her the familiar green handkerchief. Your lucky charm. And my lucky audience, she teased, brushing her fingers across his hand. I'll still be in row 2, he winked, lowering his voice. But my heart's in the front row. The velvet curtain parted. Selena stepped out to the first wave of applause. She bowed, sat down, and took a deep breath. Her fingers hovered like birds ready to perch. The second half featured a new piece, When I Walked In. She had written it to remember that first moment in the estate, the maid who sat at the piano, and the man who happened to pass by and listened. It began with a playful motif, like sparkling laughter in the grand hall that day. The theme grew into phrases sung by the keys, laced with light jazz, then suddenly fell into a deep chord, the moment of being caught, embarrassed, but unwilling to stop. In the middle, her left hand held a steady rhythm, like his promise, I'll clap loud, while her right hand bloomed with radiant arches, like stage doors opening wider. The ending didn't slam shut, but lingered, an open chord stretched on the pedal, like an invitation. Encore? When her hands lifted, silence held, perfect and round. Then Carnegie Hall erupted. Waves of applause surged row by row. Dominic stood first, tears shining in his smile. Elena dabbed her eyes. Richard said nothing, but his steady, long applause spoke volumes. Selena bowed, her heart unfolding into a sky-wide space. When the cheers settled, she stepped to the microphone. Tonight I have a special guest, she smiled, gaze fixed on one seat. Someone who patiently listened to me practice until even the washing machine knew the tune. Someone who saw me when the world dismissed me. The hall hushed. Dominic, will you come on stage with me? He froze a second, then rose amid a soft gasp, climbing the steps. Selena took his hand, not showy, just real. I promised, when I had a stage of my own, I'd call the name of the first person who saw me, she whispered for his ears only. Thank you for listening. I only did the easiest thing in the world, Dominic replied, eyes smiling. I listened to you. Selena turned back to the piano. Encore for everyone and for one. She played a gentle waltz of her own. As the melody spun, a small string ensemble she had secretly invited slipped in, laying a soft foundation. Selena rose, the piano still resonating, and right beside it, in the golden lights, she and Dominic clasped hands, turning once. Not elegant choreography, just two people who had learned to keep time together. The hall roared again. Backstage, Mrs. Winters wept openly, while Lisa pressed tissues into her hand, laughing through tears. Months later, the sea called. Their wedding was held at a seaside home Dominic had long been building, now finished with a music room that opened onto the ocean. Guests were few: family, friends, her professors, and most importantly, Selena's mother, now healthier, beaming at her daughter's wedding. No loud MC, no confetti, only waves and a piano. Selena wore a simple white dress, her hair pinned with a sapphire like that night at Carnegie. When the priest asked, Dominic squeezed her hand, smiling. I vow to dust the piano before asking how late you practiced. Laughter filled the air. Selena replied, and I vow to leave at least one night a week free, so you can take me out for cookies. Waves answered like steady drums. At the reception, Richard lifted his glass. Once I kept silent out of fear for our reputation. Today I keep silent in another way. To hear your music, it makes the Grayson name quieter and stronger. As night fell, Selena played When I Walked In, wedding version. Dominic reached out, asking her to dance. Right there, to her own melody. Their slow turns sealed their vows. A year later, in the seaside home, a new song was born, Light as Breath. Araya entered the world with wisps of black hair and tiny fists that refused to unclench. Selena cradled her, leaning against Dominic, softly playing a lullaby refrain. Our daughter listens so carefully, Dominic whispered. She's the toughest critic, Selena laughed. Miss a beat and she cries. That night, the family danced in the kitchen, sleep-deprived, overflowing with joy. Dominic twirled Aria gently, Selena teasing from the piano. Careful, the critic is scoring you. Then I want an encore every night, Dominic answered. Deal, she grinned, as long as you remain the best piano polisher in the house. That title, he kissed her hair, I'll hold for life. Outside, the waves beat steadily, like a giant metronome. Inside, laughter and music braided together. Selena knew the stage lights would still blaze, tours would still call. But beneath every ovation, there would always be a warm rhythm to return to. A man who once listened when the world ignored, a child asleep on her shoulder, and a piano polished to shine each afternoon. And if anyone asked what happiness sounded like, Selena would say, like a song written by two, sung as a lullaby by three hearts.